Transaction Capital is a non-deposit taking financial services group operating in asset-backed lending mainly in South Africa.
Now, it used to own a stake in Bayport, doesn't anymore. It used to have a business called Paycorp, doesn't anymore. So it's really SA Taxi Finance and a business that does a lot of debt collection, because there are about 30 million credit active South Africans, of which about 10 million have an impaired credit record. So
and market cap here, 8.8 billion rand, PE ratio of 18.1 and a dividend yield of 2.5%. Nesan, this one also used to have
Mark Lamberti,
who now is at
Imperial.
Thank you. I don't know why I started that if I hadn't been able to finish the sentence. Let's move on swiftly.
Okay, so listen, you know, it's as Paul says, it's the SA Taxi Finance business. They finance taxis, they insure them, you know, they collect them in the event that there's an accident, and they repair them.
Well, that must be happening quite often.
Yeah. So it's a pretty vertically integrated business if you think about it. But you know, I go back to the whole taxi industry as such. I think it's shrinking.
It's imploding.
Really?
It's got to be imploding.
Why?
The recklessness on the roads. Can we stop?
They
Can
say
I get on my high horse?
The vehicles are on average more than 6 years old. But I mean, I don't think it's imploding. The number of rides is like 25 million every month or something.
But if you look at public transport in South Africa, it's being replaced by this bus rapid transit system.
And so on.
And it's taking a long time to come through, sure. But I think, you know, in 5 or 10 years' time, they're going to take a lot of market share away from the
Mine was
taxi.
an emotional response. Nesan's is a qualified response with good
According
backing.
to SA Taxi Finance, there's no shortage of business in this space because a large proportion of the vehicle fleet is old, and there's still plenty of scope to do that whole refurb and finance and refinance the bigger ones and so on in this
But
country.
it's about costs as well. I mean, you know, a bus ticket is going to cost you a fraction of a taxi ticket just because of the economies of scale.
But is that big enough? Is Rea Vaya like available
Not
in
yet.
enough cities that it's actually making a significant difference?
Not yet. So I think there's still probably 5 or 10 years left in the tax, but it's a sunset industry.
What about the risk services business? Because like I said, there's like a lot of people in this country who need debt counseling and debt record management.
So that's actually a very good business. And they've also got in Australia, recently acquired a similar business in Australia as well. You know, I'm not too familiar in the dynamics of the Australian business, but the local debt counseling business that they have, I think, has opportunities to grow. It's definitely something that, you know, they've got a niche in.
But does that balance out? You seem relatively negative, although Paul's positive about the taxi industry. Would that opportunity balance out the negativity relating to the taxi industry?
I'm not sure. I think the taxi business still provides the bulk of the revenue. And
let's look at the chart.
Share price?
Since it did its reorganization, sold some of those business entities and did a little bit of a flip and paid out a special dividend, it's continued to do well. One other thing I'd like just to say is that the management team with Dave Hurwitz at the helm, Jonathan Jorno, those guys are very smart. You know,
So
they have a great
them.
reputation in the market. They've built up quite a substantial corporate debt book. In other words, the company has issued funding in order to bring it in order to do the work that they do in SA Taxi Finance. So I think they're nicely positioned, I must say.
And again, I need to apologize for my emotional outburst. I certainly have no depth and breadth of understanding of the on-the-ground taxi industry, so to say, hot or not.
I think, you know, unless they change the mix towards the more the debt counseling business, for me at this stage, not hot.
Hot, not?
I'll go with hot. I like this business, and I must say I still think there's lots of legs in some of those old E20s, you know.
Listen, E20s, not Mercedes.
So you're going hot?
I'll go hot.